I thought I knew what betrayal felt like, until I walked into my bedroom and saw them together. My husband, my sister, but what he said when he looked at me, that destroyed me more than anything they'd done. I'm Elena Martinez, 34, a pediatric nurse who spent years caring for everyone except myself. Now it's time I learned to fight back. The anniversary surprise. The flowers in my hand felt heavy as I pushed open the front door of our house. 5 years. 5 years of marriage to Marcus, and I wanted to make this anniversary special. I'd left work early, stopping at the bakery to pick up his favorite chocolate cake and grabbing a bouquet of red roses from the corner shop. "Marcus?" I called out, kicking off my shoes in the entryway. "I'm home early." No answer. But I heard something, music playing softly upstairs. My heart warmed at the thought. Maybe he was planning his own surprise for me. I smiled to myself and started up the stairs, the flowers still clutched in my hand. That's when I heard it, laughter. Not just any laughter, I knew that sound. High-pitched, bubbly, the kind of laugh my sister Vanessa made when she was really happy. My steps slowed. Why would Vanessa be here? She hadn't mentioned stopping by today. I reached the top of the stairs and walked toward our bedroom. The door was slightly open, and through the crack, I could see movement. My hand reached for the doorknob, and I pushed it open wider. Time stopped. My sister Vanessa was in my bed, with my husband. Marcus's hands were in her hair, and her arms were wrapped around his neck. They were kissing like they'd done this 1,000 times before, like they belonged together. The flowers fell from my hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. They didn't stop, not right away. It took a few more seconds before Marcus turned his head and saw me standing there. His eyes met mine, and I waited for the shock, the guilt, the apology. But there was nothing, just a cold, empty stare. Vanessa pulled away from him slowly, her lipstick smudged, her hair messy. She looked at me and smiled, actually smiled, like she was proud of what I was seeing. I tried to speak, but no words came out. My throat felt tight, like someone was choking me. My chest hurt. Everything hurt. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but my body wouldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, watching my entire world fall apart in front of me. "Elena," Marcus finally said, his voice calm, too calm. Like I'd just walked in on him watching TV instead of destroying our marriage. I still couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at them, my husband and my sister, in the bed I'd shared with him for 5 years. Words that shattered everything. Marcus got out of bed slowly, pulling on his jeans. He didn't look embarrassed. He didn't look sorry. He looked relieved, like he was glad I finally knew. "Say something," he said, walking toward me. I took a step back, my hand gripping the door frame to keep myself from falling. How long?" I managed to whisper. Vanessa sat up in bed, pulling the sheet around herself. She wasn't even trying to hide. She looked comfortable there, like she'd been in my bed 100 times before. Marcus ran his hand through his hair and looked me straight in the eyes. His next words came out clear and cold, each one hitting me like a knife. "I never loved you, Elena. I married you to get close to her." The room spun. I felt my knees go weak. "What?" "You heard me," he said, crossing his arms. "It was always Vanessa. From the first time I met your family, I knew she was the one I wanted. But she wasn't interested back then. So I waited. I married you, and I waited." I looked at my sister, hoping, praying, that she would tell me this was some sick joke, that she would jump up and say they were just trying to scare me. But instead, she just smiled. That same proud smile, like she'd won some twisted game I didn't even know we were playing. "You're lying," I said, my voice shaking. "You're just saying that to hurt me." Marcus shook his head. "I'm saying it because it's the truth. Every anniversary, every birthday, every time I said, 'I love you,' I was thinking about her. You were just there. A placeholder." Tears finally came, burning down my cheeks. "We've been married for 5 years. And I've been sleeping with your sister for 3, he said simply, like he was telling me what he had for breakfast. I felt like I was going to throw up. My legs finally gave out, and I grabbed the wall to keep from falling. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice sweet and innocent like always. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Elena, but it's better this way. Now you know the truth." "The truth?" I repeated, my voice breaking. The truth is that you're both monsters. Marcus shrugged. Think what you want, but I'm done pretending. We're done, Elena. I want a divorce. Something inside me broke. Not my heart. That was already destroyed. Something deeper. Something I didn't even know I had. I looked at both of them one last time, these two people I'd loved and trusted more than anyone in the world. Then I turned and walked out. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I just walked down the stairs, out the front door, and into my car. I sat in the driver's seat, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. I felt like a ghost, like I'd died in that bedroom and left my body behind. Nothing felt real anymore. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my family, it was all a lie. And somehow, I had to figure out how to keep breathing anyway. The family meeting from hell 3 days later, I still hadn't eaten. I'd been staying at a cheap motel near the hospital, calling in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone. Couldn't talk to anyone, but I needed answers. I needed to know if anyone in my family had known about this. So I called my mother and told her we needed to have a family dinner. She sounded nervous on the phone, but she agreed. My father had died 2 years ago, so it would just be me, my mother, and Vanessa. Perfect. I arrived at my mother's house that evening, my stomach twisted in knots. The smell of pot roast filled the air, my mother's specialty. Like this was just another normal family dinner, like my entire life hadn't just exploded. My mother opened the door, her smile weak. Elena, sweetheart, come in. I walked past her without hugging her back. Vanessa was already sitting at the dining table, looking at her phone. She glanced up when I walked in, then went right back to scrolling. We sat down to eat in silence. My mother kept glancing between us, her hands shaking slightly as she passed the rolls. So, I said, setting down my fork, are we going to talk about it? My mother's face went pale. Vanessa looked up from her phone, one eyebrow raised. Talk about what? Vanessa asked innocently. Don't play dumb, I snapped. I stopped. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You and Marcus. In my bed. In my house. My mother closed her eyes. Elena. Did you know? I asked her directly, my voice shaking. Did you know what they were doing? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. My mother couldn't look at me. She just stared down at her plate, her lips pressed together. Oh my God, I whispered. You knew, and you didn't tell me. It's not that simple, my mother finally said quietly. Not that simple, I shouted. Standing up from my chair. My husband was cheating on me with my sister, and you knew about it. How is that not simple? My mother looked up at me, tears in her eyes. I found out 6 months ago. Vanessa told me. She said they were in love, and she begged me not to say anything. She said she would tell you when the time was right. I looked at Vanessa, who was still sitting calmly, eating her pot roast like nothing was wrong. And you believed her? I asked my mother. You chose to protect her instead of me? I thought maybe if I gave them time, they would end it on their own, my mother said weakly. I didn't want to hurt you. So you let me stay in a marriage with a man who never loved me? You let me walk around like an idiot while everyone else knew the truth? My mother started crying. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so sorry. But I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking at Vanessa, who finally put down her fork and met my eyes. Why? I asked her. Why would you do this to me? Vanessa shrugged. Because I could. Because Marcus wanted me, not you. Because you always got everything handed to you. The perfect grades, the perfect job, the perfect life. I just wanted something that was supposed to be yours. My mother gasped. Vanessa! What? Vanessa said, turning to our mother. You know it's true. Elena was always your favorite, the responsible one, the good daughter. I was just the screw-up. So yes, I took her husband, and honestly, it felt amazing. I stared at my sister, at this person I didn't even recognize anymore. Then I looked at my mother, who wasn't defending me, who wasn't telling Vanessa how wrong she was, who was just sitting there crying quietly, like she was the victim in all of this. You chose her, I said to my mother. Even now, even after everything she's done, you're choosing her over me. My mother reached for my hand. Elena, please. I pulled away. Don't touch me, don't call me, don't come to my house. I'm done with both of you. I grabbed my purse and walked out of that house, knowing I would never come back. My mother called after me, but I didn't turn around. They'd made their choice. Now I was making mine, digging through the lies. I spent the entire next day at home, well, at the house I used to share with Marcus. He'd apparently moved in with Vanessa at her apartment. Good. That gave me time to go through everything without him watching. I started with his phone records. I'd always had access to our shared account, and Marcus had been too arrogant to change the password. I pulled up the last 3 years of call logs and text messages on my laptop. My hands shook as I scrolled through the data. There it was. Hundreds of calls to Vanessa's number. Text messages sent at all hours, during our anniversary dinner, on Christmas morning, even on my birthday. I opened one from 2 years ago. Can't wait to hold you again. Elena's working late tonight. I felt sick. I kept scrolling, finding more and more messages. They had their own language, their own inside jokes. They talked about me like I was a stranger, like I was just some obstacle they had to work around. Then I found the bank statements. I'd been so busy with work, so trusting, that I hadn't paid attention to our finances in months. Marcus handled all of that, or so I thought. Hotel charges, dozens of them, starting 3 years ago, right around our engagement party. The Riverside Inn, the Grand Plaza Hotel, the same hotels over and over again every few weeks. My engagement party. They'd been together since before we even got married. I pulled out my phone and started searching through Marcus's email. He'd left his laptop here, probably forgot it in his rush to move out. I knew his password. It was my birthday, ironically, and there it was, an email thread between Marcus and Vanessa from 4 years ago, 3 months before our wedding. Marcus: "Are you sure about this plan? What if she finds out?" Vanessa: "She won't. Elena trusts everyone. That's her weakness. Just marry her and we'll figure out the rest later. Once you're part of the family, no one will question us being close." Marcus: "I feel bad sometimes." Vanessa: "Don't. She'll be fine. She's always fine. This is about us. You want me, right?" Marcus: "More than anything." Vanessa: "Then stop feeling guilty and marry her." I read it again and again and again. They'd planned this. From the very beginning, they'd planned to use me. Marcus had never loved me. He'd never even pretended to love me in private. It was all a lie. Every kiss, every "I love you," every moment we'd shared, it was all fake. I printed everything, every text message, every email, every hotel receipt. I put it all in a folder and held it in my hands. This was my proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, proof that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. But more than that, it was ammunition. If they thought they could destroy me and walk away without consequences, they were wrong. I had evidence of their betrayal, and I was going to use it. I sat on the couch, surrounded by papers, and felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, the heartbreak was still there, but underneath it all, something else was growing. Anger. Pure, white-hot anger. They'd taken 3 years of my life. They'd made me look like a fool. They'd destroyed my trust in everyone and everything. But I wasn't going to just lie down and let them win. Not anymore. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. And I wasn't going to stop until they understood exactly what they'd done to me. I picked up my phone and searched for divorce lawyers in my area. It was time to fight back. The lawyer and the war plan. Rebecca Chen's office was on the 10th floor of a downtown building. Her assistant had squeezed me in for an emergency consultation, and I'd brought my entire folder of evidence with me. Rebecca was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. She shook my hand firmly and gestured for me to sit. "Tell me everything," she said, pulling out a legal pad. So I did. I told her about walking in on Marcus and Vanessa. I told her about what Marcus had said, about my mother's betrayal, about the emails and text messages I'd found. I told her everything, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. When I finished, Rebecca sat back in her chair and nodded slowly. "You have a strong case," she said. "More than strong. This is fault-based divorce material, adultery, fraud, and emotional abuse. We can go after him for all of it." "I don't just want a divorce," I said quietly. "I want him to pay for what he did." Rebecca's lips curved into a small smile. "Then let's make sure he does. First, we file for divorce on grounds of adultery. That alone will damage his reputation. But we can do more." "Does Marcus own a business?" "He's a partner at a financial consulting firm," I said. "Sterling and Associates. He's been there for 8 years. "Perfect," Rebecca said, making notes. Infidelity cases can affect professional standing, especially in conservative industries like finance. His partners won't be happy when this goes public. We can also go after marital assets, the house, savings, retirement accounts. Since he committed adultery, the court will likely favor you in the division. I felt a small spark of hope. Really? Really, Rebecca said. But I need to ask, are you prepared for this to get ugly? Because it will. Marcus and your sister will fight back. Your family might take sides. People will talk. It's going to be hard. I thought about Marcus's cold eyes when he told me he never loved me. I thought about Vanessa's proud smile. I thought about my mother choosing them over me. I'm ready, I said. I'm done being the person everyone walks over. Rebecca nodded. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. We file the divorce papers tomorrow. We include all the evidence you've gathered, the texts, the emails, the hotel receipts. We make it clear that this wasn't just an affair. This was calculated, long-term fraud. What about Vanessa? I asked. Can we do anything to her? Not legally, not in the divorce, Rebecca said. But we can make sure her name is attached to this. When we present evidence in court, her involvement becomes public record. Anyone who searches her name will find it. I nodded slowly. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. There's one more thing, Rebecca said, leaning forward. If you really want to hurt Marcus professionally, we need to expose this to his workplace. Not directly, that could backfire, but if certain information were to reach his business partners through appropriate channels. Like what? I asked. Like an anonymous tip about his conduct, or a well-placed conversation with someone who knows someone at his firm. White-collar businesses hate scandal. If his partners think he's a liability, they'll cut him loose. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Not quite happiness, but close. Power, control. For the first time since that horrible day, I felt like I could fight back. Let's do it, I said. All of it. Rebecca smiled. Then let's get to work. Marcus Reed has no idea what's coming. We spent the next 2 hours going over every detail, planning every move. By the time I left her office, I had a strategy. More than that, I had hope. Marcus thought he'd won. He thought he'd destroyed me and walked away clean. But he was wrong. I wasn't destroyed. I was angry, and I was going to make sure he regretted every lie he'd ever told me. Vanessa's secrets come to light. Rebecca had suggested hiring a private investigator, and I'd agreed immediately. If Marcus and Vanessa had been hiding their affair for 3 years, who knew what else they were hiding? The investigator's name was David Palmer, a former police detective who now ran his own agency. I met him at a coffee shop 2 days after my meeting with Rebecca. I need everything, I told him. Financial records, employment history, anything that might be useful. David nodded, taking notes. Give me a week. He called me 6 days later. You're going to want to sit down for this. I met him at his office, and he slid a thick folder across the desk to me. Your sister is not who she says she is. My heart pounded as I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, employment records, and what looked like police reports. Start with the employment records, David said, pointing. Vanessa told your family she works in marketing at Hartwell and Company, right? Yeah, I said. She's been there for 3 years. She was, David corrected. She was fired 7 months ago for embezzlement. Small amounts at first, office supplies, petty cash. But then she started forging expense reports. The company didn't press charges because they didn't want the publicity, but they fired her immediately. I stared at the termination letter in my hands, 7 months ago, and she'd never said a word. There's more, David continued. Look at these bank statements. I flipped to the next section. These were my father's bank statements from the last 6 months before he died. I recognized the account number. It was his savings account, the one he'd set up for my mother after he got sick. Notice anything strange? David asked. I scanned the withdrawals. There were dozens of them, all between $200 and $500, all made at ATMs around the city. My father had been too sick to leave the house during those months. Who made these withdrawals? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Vanessa, David said. I pulled the ATM surveillance footage. It's all her. She had his debit card and was draining his account while he was dying. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My father had died with almost nothing in his savings. My mother had been devastated, thinking he'd spent it all on medical bills. But it wasn't medical bills. It was Vanessa. How much did she take? I whispered. $38,000, David said. Over 6 months. I closed my eyes. That money was supposed to help my mother. My father had saved it for years so she wouldn't struggle after he was gone, and Vanessa had stolen it. There's one more thing, David said quietly. These police reports. Vanessa was arrested 4 years ago for credit card fraud. The charges were dropped because the victim didn't want to prosecute, but the arrest is still on record. I looked at the report. Vanessa had stolen her roommate's credit card and racked up $15,000 in charges. The roommate had eventually decided it wasn't worth the hassle of pressing charges, but the damage was done. She's been lying about everything, I said quietly. Her job, her life, everything. Looks that way, David said. The question is, what do you want to do with this information? I stared at the folder in my hands. This wasn't just evidence of Vanessa being a bad person. This was evidence of actual crimes. Theft, fraud, embezzlement. Can we use this? I asked. In court, I mean, some of it, David said. The fraud charge is public record. The embezzlement might be trickier since the company didn't press charges, but it shows a pattern of behavior. The theft from your father's account, that's the big one. If you reported it to the police, they'd likely investigate. I thought about my father, weak and dying, trusting Vanessa to help take care of things. I thought about my mother, crying over his empty savings account, blaming herself for not saving more money. And I thought about Vanessa, smiling at me from my bed, proud of what she'd done. I want to report it, I said firmly. All of it. She needs to face consequences for what she's done. David nodded. I'll help you file the reports. But Elena, your mother might not thank you for this. She might even blame you. I know, I said. But I don't care anymore. Vanessa has gotten away with hurting people her entire life. Someone needs to stop her. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was doing the right thing. Not just for me, but for my father, for my mother, for everyone Vanessa had ever hurt. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she could destroy my life and walk away laughing, but she was wrong. And I was going to make sure she knew it. Confronting my mother's betrayal, I drove to my mother's house the next day. The police reports in my bag. I needed her to see this. I needed her to understand what Vanessa really was. My mother answered the door in her bathrobe, her eyes red and swollen. She'd been crying. Elena, she said, her voice breaking, please come in. I've been wanting to call you, but I didn't know if you'd answer. I walked past her into the living room. The house smelled like coffee and sadness. I need to show you something, I said, pulling out the folder. My mother sat down on the couch, wrapping her bathrobe tighter around herself. What is it? I handed her the bank statements from my father's account. Look at these. She took them with shaking hands, squinting at the numbers. I don't understand. What am I looking at? These are Dad's withdrawals from the last 6 months before he died, I said. Someone took almost $40,000 from his account. My mother's face went pale. That's impossible. The money it was gone. We thought it was medical bills. It was Vanessa, I said, showing her the ATM surveillance photos. She had his card. She stole from him while he was dying. My mother stared at the photos, her hands trembling. No, Vanessa wouldn't. She would, I interrupted. And she did? Look at this. I showed her the employment termination letter. She was fired 7 months ago for embezzlement. She's been lying to all of us. My mother's eyes filled with tears. She kept shaking her head, like she could make it all go away if she just refused to believe it. And this, I continued, showing her the arrest record. She was arrested for credit card fraud 4 years ago. Stop, my mother whispered. Please, stop. No, I said firmly. You need to see this. You need to see what she really is. My mother looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy your sister? I stared at her in disbelief. I'm not trying to destroy her. I'm trying to show you the truth. She's a thief and a liar, and she's been manipulating all of us. She made mistakes, my mother said weakly. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes, I repeated. Mom, she stole Dad's money. Money he saved for you. Money that was supposed to take care of you after he died. My mother covered her face with her hands. I know, but she's still my daughter. So am I said, my voice breaking. I'm your daughter too. But you didn't protect me. You knew about the affair and you didn't tell me. You let me stay in a marriage with a man who was using me. You chose her over me. That's not fair, my mother sobbed. I was trying to protect both of you. No, I said firmly. You were protecting her. You've always protected her. Even now, even after everything she's done, you're making excuses for her. My mother looked up at me, her face twisted with pain. What do you want me to say, Elena? That I was wrong? Fine, I was wrong. I should have told you about Marcus and Vanessa. I should have done a lot of things differently, but I can't change the past. You can change the future, I said. You can stop enabling her. You can hold her accountable. My mother wiped her eyes, her voice small. She's my baby. I can't just abandon her. But you can abandon me? I asked. She didn't answer. She just sat there, crying, holding the bank statements in her shaking hands. Vanessa was always your favorite, I said quietly. I knew it growing up, but I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself you loved us both equally, but you don't. You never did. That's not true, my mother said, but her voice was weak. Yes, it is, I said. You've spent my entire life making excuses for her. When she got bad grades, you said she was creative. When she got fired from jobs, you said they didn't appreciate her. When she stole Dad's money, you didn't even know, did you? Because you didn't want to know. My mother looked at me, and I saw the truth in her eyes. She'd known something was wrong, she'd suspected, but she'd chosen not to ask questions. I wanted Vanessa to have a good life, my mother finally said. I thought if Marcus made her happy, if she finally had stability, maybe she'd change. Maybe she'd become the person I always hoped she'd be. So you sacrificed me, I said. You let my husband and my sister destroy my marriage because you thought it would fix Vanessa. I made a mistake, my mother whispered. You made a choice, I corrected. And you chose her, just like you always have. I stood up, picking up my bag. My mother reached for me. Elena, please don't go. Let's talk about this. There's nothing left to talk about, I said. I'm reporting Vanessa to the police for stealing Dad's money. She's going to face consequences for what she did. My mother's face went white. You can't do that. She's your sister. She stopped being my sister the moment she decided to destroy my life, I said. And you stopped being my mother when you let her. I walked to the door, my mother calling after me, begging me to stay. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I looked back, I might change my mind. I might let guilt and love and the desperate need for my mother's approval convince me to forgive them. But I was done being the person everyone walked over. I was done being the good daughter who swallowed her pain to keep the peace. Vanessa had made her choices. My mother had made hers. Now it was time for me to make mine. The public exposure, Marcus's company anniversary gala, was in 2 weeks. Sterling and Associates threw one every year. A big, fancy event with clients, investors, and business partners. Marcus had always loved it, using it as an opportunity to network and show off. Rebecca had suggested I make an appearance. If you want to expose him publicly, this is your chance, she'd said. Everyone who matters in his professional life will be there. So I bought a red dress. Not the kind of dress I usually wore. Safe, modest, forgettable. This one was bold, fitted, the kind of dress that made people look. I wanted them to look. I wanted everyone to see me. The gala was held at the Riverside Hotel, ironically, one of the places Marcus and Vanessa had used for their secret meetings. I walked in alone, my head high, carrying a small black clutch. The ballroom was packed with people in expensive suits and glittering jewelry. A live band played softly in the corner. Waiters circulated with champagne. It was the kind of event Marcus lived for. I spotted him across the room, standing with his business partners. He was laughing, his hand on the shoulder of the senior partner, Mr. Sterling. Vanessa wasn't with him. Smart. She probably knew better than to show her face here. I walked to the bar and ordered a drink, taking my time. I wanted Marcus to see me. I wanted him to know I was here. It didn't take long. His eyes found me, and I saw the shock on his face. He excused himself from his group and walked over to me, his jaw tight. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "It's a company event," I said calmly. "I'm still your wife until the divorce is finalized. I have every right to be here." "Elena, don't do this. Whatever you're planning—" "I'm not planning anything," I said, smiling. I just wanted to celebrate with everyone. Marcus looked panicked. Good, he should be. The speeches started a few minutes later. Mr. Sterling stood at the microphone, talking about the company's success, thanking the team. Marcus was supposed to speak next, to talk about the new clients he'd brought in. But before he could reach the microphone, I walked up to the stage. The room went quiet. Mr. Sterling looked confused. Mrs. Reed, can we help you? I smiled at the crowd. I just wanted to say a few words, if that's okay, about my husband. I saw Marcus freeze. He started to move toward me, but one of his partners stopped him, curious about what I was going to say. Marcus and I have been married for 5 years, I said, my voice clear and steady. And in that time, I've learned a lot about him. I've learned about his dedication, his ambition, his relationships. The room shifted. People were paying attention now. In fact, I brought something to share with all of you, I said, pulling out my phone. Just a little recording I found. I think it really shows who Marcus is as a person. I played it. The audio was crystal clear, Marcus and Vanessa laughing, talking about how stupid I was, how easy it had been to fool me. Marcus's voice saying he never loved me. Vanessa's voice saying I deserved it. The room was dead silent. Every eye was on Marcus, who had gone completely pale. That's my sister, by the way, I added. The one he's been sleeping with for 3 years, while married to me, while working for this company and claiming to represent its values. I looked directly at Mr. Sterling. I just thought you should know what kind of person you have as a partner. Someone who lies, who cheats, who manipulates everyone around him. Thank you for your time. I stepped down from the stage and walked toward the exit. Behind me, chaos erupted. I could hear Mr. Sterling demanding answers, hear Marcus trying to explain. I heard voices raised, chairs scraping, but I didn't look back. I walked out of that hotel with my head high, feeling lighter than I had in months. Marcus's reputation was destroyed. His partners had heard everything. His clients had heard everything. By tomorrow, everyone in his industry would know what he'd done. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly. It was justice. And it felt like breathing again. Vanessa's downfall. So, days after the gala, I went to the police station with David Palmer and all the evidence we'd gathered. The detective who took my statement was a woman named Sarah Ortiz, and she listened carefully as I explained everything. This is a clear case of financial elder abuse and theft, she said, reviewing the bank statements. Your father was vulnerable, and your sister took advantage of that. We'll open an investigation immediately. How long will it take? I asked. A few weeks, maybe a month, Detective Ortiz said. We'll need to verify everything, but with the evidence you provided, I'd say the case is strong. I left the station feeling relieved. Vanessa was finally going to face consequences. The arrest happened on a Thursday morning. I heard about it from my mother, who called me sobbing. How could you do this? She cried. They arrested Vanessa. They came to her apartment and arrested her in front of everyone. She stole from Dad, I said calmly. She committed a crime. I just reported it. But she's your sister, my mother wailed. Family doesn't do this to family. Family doesn't steal from dying fathers either, I said. But Vanessa did, and you enabled her. Please, Elena, please drop the charges. I'll pay back the money. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't let them send her to jail. I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of exhaustion wash over me. Even now, even after everything, my mother was trying to protect Vanessa. No, I said firmly. I'm not dropping the charges. Vanessa needs to face what she's done. You're destroying this family, my mother sobbed. Vanessa destroyed this family, I corrected. I'm just making sure she's held accountable. My mother hung up on me. I sat there holding the phone, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. It hurt that my mother still chose Vanessa over me. But I'd expected it. I'd known it would happen. The difference was that this time, I didn't let it change my mind. 3 days later, I got a call from Detective Ortiz. I thought you'd want to know. Your sister accepted a plea deal. She's pleading guilty to 1 count of financial exploitation of an elderly person. She'll serve 18 months in county jail and pay restitution of $40,000. 18 months, I repeated. It's not as much as we'd hoped for, Detective Ortiz admitted, but it's something, and she'll have a criminal record. That'll follow her for the rest of her life. I thanked her and hung up. 18 months. It didn't seem like enough for everything Vanessa had done, not just to my father, but to me, to our entire family. But it was more than nothing. The next day, Marcus's lawyer called Rebecca. He wanted to settle the divorce quickly and quietly. He was offering me the house, 3/4 of our savings, and his portion of my father's life insurance policy that we'd received as beneficiaries. He's desperate, Rebecca told me. After what happened at the gala, his partnership at Sterling and Associates is on the line. They're conducting an internal review. He wants this divorce finalized before they make their decision. What do you think? I asked. I think we could push for more, Rebecca said. But this is already a very favorable settlement. You'd walk away with almost everything. I thought about it for a moment. I could drag this out, make Marcus suffer more. But honestly, I was tired. I wanted it to be over. I wanted to move on with my life. Take the deal, I said. Rebecca filed the paperwork that afternoon. Within a week, the divorce was finalized. The house was mine. The money was mine. Marcus was out of my life forever. I heard through mutual friends that Sterling and Associates had forced Marcus to resign. His reputation in the financial industry was ruined. No one wanted to work with someone who'd been exposed as a liar and a cheat at a public event. He'd tried to reach out to me a few times, leaving voicemails that I deleted without listening to. I didn't care what he had to say. He'd made his choices, and now he was living with the consequences. Vanessa went to jail 2 weeks later. My mother went to visit her every week, still trying to fix things, still trying to make it better. But I stayed away. I didn't go to the sentencing hearing. I didn't write her letters. I didn't forgive her. Some people thought I was cruel. Some people thought I should have been the bigger person, but those people hadn't walked in on their husband and sister in bed together. They hadn't heard the words, "I never loved you." They hadn't discovered years of lies and manipulation. I wasn't being cruel. I was protecting myself, and for the first time in my life, I was putting my own well-being first. It felt strange, uncomfortable, but also right, building my new life. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in my kitchen, in my house, making coffee and watching the sunrise through the window. The house felt different now. I'd repainted the bedroom, bought new furniture, changed the locks. I'd erased every trace of Marcus from these walls. It was mine now, truly mine. Work had been my saving grace through everything. I'd thrown myself into my job at the hospital, spending extra hours with my young patients, finding comfort in their resilience. Kids bounced back from things that would break adults. They taught me that healing was possible. I'd started therapy 3 months ago. Dr. Williams was patient and kind, helping me work through the betrayal, the anger, the grief. She helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, that I couldn't have prevented it, that some people are just broken in ways that have nothing to do with you. You survived something that would have destroyed many people, she told me in our last session. You stood up for yourself. You set boundaries. You chose yourself. That takes incredible strength. I didn't always feel strong. Some days I still woke up angry. Some days I still cried. But those days were getting fewer and farther between. I joined a support group for people who'd experienced family betrayal. It met every Tuesday evening at a community center downtown. There were 8 of us, all women, all with stories of family members who'd hurt them in unforgivable ways. There was Michelle, whose brother had stolen her identity and destroyed her credit. There was Donna, whose mother had turned her children against her. There was Patricia, whose husband had conspired with her sister to drain their joint accounts. We sat in a circle and told our stories, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel crazy. These women understood what it was like to be betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most. The hardest part, Michelle said one evening, is accepting that they're not going to change, that they're not going to suddenly realize what they did and apologize. My mother still sends me emails, I admitted, begging me to forgive Vanessa, telling me I'm tearing the family apart. You didn't tear anything apart, Patricia said firmly. They did. You just refused to keep pretending everything was fine. That truth had taken me months to accept. I hadn't destroyed my family. My family had destroyed itself through lies, manipulation, and betrayal. I'd just been the one brave enough to call it out. I'd cut off all contact with my mother and Vanessa, no phone calls, no emails, no social media. At first, it felt like losing a limb, painful, wrong, like something vital was missing. But gradually, it started to feel like freedom. I didn't have to walk on eggshells anymore. I didn't have to worry about being compared to Vanessa or falling short. I didn't have to watch my mother choose her over me again and again. I was learning to build a family of choice instead. My best friend Rachel had been my rock through everything, showing up with wine and tissues whenever I needed her. My coworkers at the hospital had rallied around me, inviting me to dinners and movies, making sure I wasn't alone. And the women in my support group, They understood me in ways my blood family never had. I'd even started dating again, though I was taking it slow. There was a doctor at the hospital, Daniel, who'd asked me out for coffee twice. I'd said yes, and we'd had nice conversations. Nothing serious yet, but it was nice to remember that not everyone was a liar. That trust was still possible. The goal isn't revenge, Dr. Williams had told me. The goal is healing, building a life that makes you happy. That's the best revenge, living well. And I was starting to believe her. Standing in my kitchen now, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger, the fights, the courts and lawyers and police reports. It had been the worst year of my life. But it had also been the year I found my strength. I'd learned that I didn't need my family's approval to be worthy. I didn't need my mother's love, or my sister's respect, or my husband's affection. I was enough on my own. I'd learned that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary. That walking away from toxic people wasn't giving up. It was choosing yourself. I'd learned that family wasn't just blood. It was the people who showed up for you, who supported you, who loved you, even when things got hard. And I'd learned that revenge wasn't about destroying someone else. It was about refusing to let them destroy you. Marcus's career was in ruins, but I didn't think about him anymore. Vanessa was in jail, but I'd stopped counting the days until her release. My mother was alone, but I'd stopped feeling guilty about her choices. They'd made their decisions. I'd made mine, and I was finally at peace with that. My phone buzzed on the counter, a text from Rachel. "Brunch today? I found a new place with amazing pancakes." I smiled and texted back, "Yes, see you at 11. I finished my coffee, got dressed, and headed out into the sunny morning. The air was crisp and clean, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. I wasn't the same Elena who'd walked into her bedroom a year ago and had her world fall apart. That Elena had been naive, trusting, desperate to keep the peace. This Elena was stronger, wiser, less willing to accept scraps of love from people who didn't deserve her. This Elena knew her worth, and this Elena was going to be just fine. I'd survived the worst betrayal imaginable, and I'd come out the other side, not unscathed. I had scars, deep ones, but I was standing, I was breathing, I was moving forward. Revenge hadn't been about destroying them. It had been about building myself back up, about refusing to let their betrayal define me, about creating a life I was proud of, with or without them. They'd taken 3 years of my life, but they wouldn't take another day. I got in my car and drove toward my new life, leaving the past exactly where it belonged, behind me.